The meeting of the Planning Board, Borough of Somerville, for October 11th, 2023 will please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meeting Act, has been provided that on a copy of the notice specifying the date, time, and location was posted on the bulletin board outside of Borough Hall, mailed, faxed, or emailed to the Courier News, and given to the Clerk Administrator. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Okay, so let's go. Roll call, please.
Mr. Zinski?
Yeah.
Mayor Sullivan?
Here.
Councilman Broom?
Here.
Mr. Dare?
Here.
Mr. Akins?
Here.
Mr. Kraska? Mr. Prestes?
Here.
Mr. Cleveland?
Here.
Mr. Addicks? Ms. Warner?
Here. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a lot on the docket today, so let's start with the approval of the minutes. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Zinski?
Yes.
Councilman Broom?
Yes.
Mr. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Prestes?
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland?
Yes.
Ms. Warner?
Yes. Okay, first to be heard tonight is Somerset Station Urban Renewal LLC.
Good evening, Michael Bruno on behalf of Somerset Urban Renewal LLC. This is a pretty straightforward application. It's for the Phase 2 area of the redevelopment that's currently under development over at the Somerville train station. What we're seeking is an interim approval to allow a surface paved lot consistent with the flood hazard permit that was issued for the property. The urgency is that the permit expires in December, so we want to get this work done before then. This is an interim plan. We will be back before you for the Phase 2 site plan application consistent with your redevelopment plan. Anticipate that to be sometime during the first quarter of 2004. But in the interim, we want to comply with the flood hazard permit, stabilize the site with a surface lot, and have this interim status until such time as we come in with the formal application.
Okay, just procedurally, Jenna, all the notices and publications are on order? Okay, so for the record, we'll mark this A1, the application, the letter of September 25th from council, and all documents submitted in connection with the application. A2 will be the notice and publication proofs, and then PB1 will be the letter from the board engineer, CHA, dated October 9, 2023.
Anybody have any questions for either Chris or the applicant? I think it's pretty straightforward. So say again how long you anticipate this interim lot's going to be?
I would anticipate we'll be back in front of you the first quarter of 2024. When construction commences on whatever action you take, hopefully the approval. I'm not sure. So this will be, ask me to guess, 12 months, 18 months at most.
Okay. If there's no questions, anybody want to move this?
We open up to the public.
Oh, that's true. Thank you for reminding me. I'll now open it up to the public for any questions on this application. Hearing no questions, that close to the public. Now.
I'll move it. Sorry.
Okay, can you let's vote?
Who was the second?
Nice.
Before we do the vote, how much did I miss before I came in? Apologies late on documents. Good, all right, I thought I got it in the
Yeah,
beginning. but I
this
wanted
is
to
our
make sure I
first
didn't miss-
one. Everything else was supplied in minutes and things.
Okay, so let the record reflect that, you
Chris,
got it?
Chris.
Okay.
Chris snuck
Problem.
in. Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Mr. Zinski?
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Broom?
Yes.
Mr. Dare?
Yes.
Mr. Akins?
Yes.
Mr. Prestes?
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mr. Addicks?
Yes.
And Ms. Warner?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
That's yours.
Appreciate it. Nice seeing everybody.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, next up is Tacoria, 24 Division Street.
You're not so surprised.
Hello, everybody. Goodbye.
Yeah, he does.
Nobody got it until today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Ogrodek. I'm an attorney at Sabo Schott Law Firm here in Somerville. On behalf of the applicant, 24 Division Redev LLC for property located at Block 118, Lot 16, also known as 24 Division Street. One of the utmost important issues in this town, tacos. We're seeking a preliminary and final minor site plan approval necessary to turn what was originally the chocolate place into taqueria. I've passed out something that I'd like to mark as A1.
All right, why don't we, hold on one second, notices are in order, publication, everything? Okay, A1, we're gonna make the application supporting documents, A2, notice of publication proofs, A3 will be the packet of photographs, consisting of 3 photographs that council has just distributed to everyone, and PP1 will be the letter from the board engineer and planner dated October 4th.
Okay, and just to describe A3, these are 3 color photographs from the website representing the Piscataway, the Hoboken, and the Paramus locations of this business, just to give the board an idea of the general aesthetic of this brand. This is an application to, again, convert the first floor of an existing mixed-use building into a restaurant use, specifically a taqueria, which includes the installation of a commercial kitchen, only 5 tables, and 4 seats for a total of 20 seats, an external trash area. The only exterior improvement proposed in this application is the intake and exhaust fans, which are necessary for, obviously, for the commercial kitchen, which were originally proposed in the adjacent alleyway, firefighters walk, which the borough did permit since we are encroaching onto that vertical property via resolution 230821-270. This is the historic Hook and Ladder Firehouse. This was converted to a mixed-use building several years ago, and this application seeks to restore that restaurant use. This is a property located in the B1 Central Business District in the Arts Overlay Zone District, where restaurants are permitted principal uses. There are, as I said, there are existing residential apartments on the upper floors, which received approvals when the firehouse was converted over to retail and residential. Also, the residential dwellings, quote, located on the upper floors of a mixed-use building are also permitted uses in the Division Street Arts Overlay Zone District. As such, all the proposed uses are fully conforming to the zone table. Again, the proposed restaurant is Taqueria Mexican Street Kitchen, which is a small business. If you read the article, founded by several Rutgers graduate students in 2016. This small business has experienced fast growth and has existing locations in Piscataway, New Brunswick, Princeton, Morristown, Montclair, Hoboken, Jersey City, and Paramus, all since 2016. Again, you can see kind of the bohemian aesthetic that their other locations are going for, and it's going to be consistent with the design elements of this location. There's been one potential variance identified in Mr. Cole's memorandum, which we didn't receive until late today, under section 102, 111, 117E, building or structure, questioning about a nuisance for the exhaust and intake fans. We believe that we can conform to the requirements. However, we had some late minute phone calls with the design professionals, and as Mr. Cole indicated, we may have to adjust the location of these We are at about 90 decibels at the fan. And the fan is, since this is a historic building, it's only a 25-foot wide lot. So that fan is right at the property line. So what we would suggest is, and we've spoken with the design professionals, we can comply with the ordinance. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go through the effort of venting the exhaust fan vertically through the rear of the building. And I'll let Mr. Stiers detail how that will comply. But we will get under the decibel levels for the daytime. We are amenable to restricting the hours of operation so that we don't have to go to the 50 decibel level, which we cannot meet. So we will agree to those operational hour restrictions to avoid the noise generated from the exhaust and intake fans. We have Mr. Stiers, our engineer, who can testify as to the existing and proposed site conditions, garbage, all the questions raised in the Cole memorandum. But I'd like to start with Divin Patel on behalf of the owner, just to kind of give a brief origin story of the business, as well as some operational testimony, employees, hours of operation, et cetera.
Why don't we have everyone, I'll swear everybody in, and then we'll just give their names.
Divin Patel.
Yep, so I'll swear all of you in, and then before you testify, we'll put your name in and spell it on the record.
Jose Gennaro.
Hold on one second. You swear the testimony you're about to give this for is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay, then as each one of you comes up to testify, we'll give your name.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm one of the owners of Taqueria,
And your name was again?
Divin Patel.
Can you spell that for the record?
This, this
Hold on, spell that for the record.
Dipen, last name Patel, Patel.
Wonderful, thank you.
This concept actually started where I actually took a trip out to North Carolina, believe it or not. And, I forgot it was a birthday or something back in 2013. Went out there, group of friends, like, oh man, these tacos are amazing. Why doesn't Jersey have anything like this? Back then, only place to get tacos was, if you go to French Street or back in 2016, there was nothing else like it. So I'm like, hey, one day we have to bring it back to Jersey. 2 years later, 2016, a location came up on Easton Avenue, New Brunswick. Like, hey, this location might work. Who doesn't love tacos? Everybody loves tacos. So, we took a leap of faith, jumped right in. None of us are chefs. Took a lot of time and effort, but we eventually got there. And fast forward to 7 years later, we have over 200 employees. We also have locations opening up in Edgewater, Malton, Summit, and hopefully Somerville, if things go as planned.
And as a part of your expansion into Somerville, you actually purchased this building.
We actually purchased the building. We couldn't really find any retail spaces that actually worked for us. This was an old firehouse. It would be amazing to put our concept there. As you can see by the pictures, we like to be really creative with our buildings. I know this is historic, so we won't touch the facade, but hopefully the interior meets your guys' expectations.
And what are your anticipated hours of operation?
None of our shops are open late. Fortunately, we've never had to do that. Even in Hoboken, it's a late night town. Where most shops are open till 3 a.m. in the morning. We close our doors at 10 p.m.
Okay. And when do you open?
We open up at between 11:30 to 12.
And how many employees do you anticipate for this location?
I would think 15 to 20 employees between the shifts.
Okay. And how many shifts do you run?
Usually 2 to 3 depending on part-time and full-time.
And how many deliveries per week do you get, and what types of vehicles make those deliveries?
Usually deliveries are, it could be anywhere from 1 to twice a week depending on how busy the shops are, but usually about 2 times per week.
And I read on your website, no freezers.
No freezers.
So everything's
Everything is cooked fresh. Our guys actually get in around 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and they start prepping for 3 hours before we open shop.
And we reviewed the Cole memorandum today, is that correct?
Yes.
And there were some questions regarding trash and recycling pickup.
Yes.
So how many, we understand that there's no, that there's borough pickup here and that it's restricted to the end of Division Street.
Right.
And are you comfortable that you can keep up with the amount of garbage produced in order to have a a trash and recycling pickup once a week?
That was the other question I had, like, I'm not sure if there's private pickup available or not, but if it's just once a week, it is doable. I mean, we have, some of our shops are twice a week, so.
Okay, and we talked about how many cans for garbage and recycling would you need per day?
Give or take about one for recycling, one for garbage.
And is there an area, a vestibule area, that you can store these garbage cans that are out of the way?
Inside or outside?
Outside.
Outside, I mean, if you guys look at the site plan, I believe there's a parking spot, which is really not a parking spot. If that can be covered with a fence, so it's not viewed to the public eye, maybe that's an option.
And for storage of the grease traps, there was a suggestion in Mr. Cole's memorandum that you store the grease not in the exterior but interior and have a pump available so that there can be suction pickup from the.
Sure, I'm sure we can adhere to that.
I have no further questions on the rest.
Anybody have any questions? I just have one question, to clarify, you're not changing the facade at all?
There's no facade changes proposed, other than the vent for the commercial kitchen.
But the
And the
front,
signage
the part
will
on
comply.
to division, the
Some-
windows onto
yes.
division area.
Signage, right?
Signage will comply. I probably should enter this as an exhibit. We'll agree to comply. I mean, this is their brand, this sign. So I'm not sure, Mr. Cole, if that type of sign is compliant, but we'll stay within the footprint of the chocolatier sign.
Only one dimension can be more than 2 feet, the standard.
Yeah.
Let's
We'll
mark that as
we'll get a
A4.
detail on that, but, you know, we'd like to light it consistent with the brand. If that's a problem, then we won't.
No, you can illuminate it.
We'll mark that as A4.
No questions about the description so far? Okay, good thing.
So I have Mr. Stiers to detail some of the issues with the venting.
Thank you, guys.
system. Mr. Stiers, your license still in good standing?
Yeah.
Could you just go over the
The
existing,
board accepts and then professional, right?
just go over the existing conditions and then the proposed exterior changes with the Econ Air system?
You know, really nothing is changing on the exterior as Mike has said, it's a former firehouse. You have the alley just to the north of the property. The front half of the building is 3 stories and the back half is, I believe, like 1.5 stories. It kind of has a 1 story and then it slopes up and then hits the 3-story building. There is room in the back, as the applicant testified, that we could put storage for the garbage. So I think it, you know, for the use, it fits what he's looking to do. You know, to kind of restore that, you know, like he's talking about, you know, that firehouse and, you know, the look. Obviously, we have a biased board member. You know, again, the only thing that's really changing originally, what we have proposed is the exhaust fan, which we got approval for the application from the council, is to go out onto the alley. And, I'm sorry, that would be the intake, and the exhaust would be out the back. When we did get Mike's review this afternoon, around 4 o'clock or so, we kind of did a cram session of how to, you know, address this matter. And I actually, in Mike's memo, I want to thank him to give us the flexibility of this, because he's making the suggestion to allow us to comply with this, because right now it does not.
Right, just so the board knows, I met with John Michelle, and he spent some time on this,
Okay.
and that's why Craig is saying this. I said, should the board approve this, grant the applicant the flexibility, because the exhaust can work, but the location in our review doesn't work with code. He's got to move it in the middle, and then the sound on the intake needs to comply with the state noise code. And what Craig is saying and Michael's saying is they're going to move the intakes to the rear to comply with the sound, so that the sound complies with the state
So
noise
there's
code.
going to be nothing on the alleyway anymore?
Correct.
Correct.
And so the exhaust, is it gonna go up to the top? I'm
Now
trying
it's
to,
gonna go to the top. If you look at the architectural plans,
that's what I was looking for and I couldn't find it.
you can see the rear view of the, not our plans, it's the,
Right. It shows it going out right now, Craig.
yeah, right.
Right now, we have a exhaust on the back.
Yeah, you see the circular exhaust on the
Yes,
back there.
yes.
So that is the, right now, that's the exhaust. And if you look on the side, it's kind of screened back on the, if you're looking at the
Yep,
left side of the
yep.
building,
Yeah,
that's the intake. So
Okay.
obviously, the intake is right on the property line. The source, we
Right.
learned this evening, at the source, it's 90 decibels, so it doesn't
Too loud.
comply with the state law.
Right.
So we can't even get a variance because it's a state law. So what we have come up with is that we're gonna move that intake to the location where the exhaust is.
Yep.
Actually shift it over a little bit more because you have to be 10 feet based
Separation.
on the numbers.
Yeah.
And then taking the exhaust, goes straight up so that it exhausts at the roof line right there.
So
Well, but
moving
isn't
at
it
the back,
gonna-
you're shifting it to the right in a sense.
Correct.
So the intake will shift over and look just like that. The exhaust will turn up, and then that mushroom will be, I guess, in a horizontal location as opposed to, you're
at
looking
the,
at it
at
vertical.
the very top of the roof? Because there's windows right here, so you
No,
can
if you-
exhaust where the windows are?
The back of the building, like I said, is a story and a half.
Right,
Whereas those, you kind of have, if you look at it, you can see it like a shingle.
yeah,
pattern.
I know the building has that sloping roof.
Right, so it goes from a one-story roof.
Yeah.
It's got an angled roof, and then it hits the three-story.
Right.
So that, between the exhaust and those windows, is probably 15 feet.
And that's far enough away for an exhaust odor-wise to,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Not
think
going
it's gotta
those
be 10
windows?
foot all the way around.
And Mr. Stires, as we spoke with the design professionals today, and could you just testify as to the decibel level and what it would be at 7 feet, even though we're planning to put it at 10 feet?
Yeah, so if you look on sheet 5 of the commercial kitchen plans, they put in big letters near the top. 10 feet, that's the 60 decibels, and that's the exhaust. And then the intake is 60 decibels at 7 feet. So if we center both of those in the property, they will meet the state law of 65 decibels at the property line.
at the property line.
And then also, kind of for the apartments in the back, that will also meet that technically requirement as well.
Yeah.
That they're more than 10 feet
And you're
away.
not worried about the smell of the exhausts going into those windows of those apartments?
It's, like I said, it's about 15 feet away, so I don't think so.
That, the vertical, the vertical pipe to get that to the 1.5 story level, that's external to the building?
That was one of my questions, whether it could be screened or painted with brick color, something to have the vents blend in.
Yeah,
And I threw that question
Yeah, I
out,
think
I don't know
he's-
if I can.
I mean, the quick change we're doing now, I think even is, amenable to that.
Just painted the brick color?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Painting the bed.
Will you
paint
take
the-
Oh, yeah, of course, we
painting
could
to
even
match
cover it
the
with a
building?
soffit if need be. We actually have to do that in New Brunswick, where we have a duct going all the way up to the, second story, and we covered it with soffit to match the existing slope of the building, so if that needs to be done,
and I'm sure if the proposed exhaust adversely impacts some of the apartments, I'm sure the applicant would be agreeable to extend it higher. Should that occur, is that fair? to
I mean,
say, Mike?
visually, we think it would look great.
I understand, but
But-
I think what I'm hearing from the board is just to have some safety net in case there's some adverse impact on the
We would
apartments.
agree as a condition that if you find that there's an impact that's adverse for odor, that we could extend it higher, but hopefully that we won't have to cross that bridge.
Let's talk about your garbage, our favorite thing to talk about. So, if you're going to be putting it outside, are you putting it in just garbage cans?
Well,
Garbage
unfortunately, I
bags?
think we're limited. So
Okay.
this is an odd property because it's actually sort of landlocked. I mean, there's an alleyway there, but it's not, it's a walking alleyway.
Right.
And then right behind the property line, there's a parking lot.
There's a paved,
So we
yes,
can't get a garbage truck in.
Right.
So Mr. Cole had indicated that the practice on Division Street is once a week, end of the street, everybody has to wheel everything out at the
Right.
end of the street.
So you're gonna be storing them in garbage cans, not garbage bags that you just
Correct.
have to keep down?
Correct.
Are you gonna build a surround to screen those garbage cans when they're
Yeah, I
just
mean, that's,
sitting out there? Because typically, if we have a dumpster out there, we ask for screening. This is sort of like a dumpster. It's just garbage cans. But I think because of, it's so open to the public and it's a passageway, it would be nice to have them screened off and actually protected from people mucking around with them.
Of course, I mean, we can put like a PVC fence up surrounding.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, something to protect them from the, you know,
that's fine.
this site-wise, but also just people going up and using them for their own use, things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Anybody else have any questions?
You anticipated my question because that corner where the alleyway comes out has been an habitual issue with just collecting trash from everywhere. So if you have a screen, I would suggest even a camera.
On the screening, is the board okay with a 6-foot high screen to cover it, or is that too high?
To just, yeah, I think,
Screening for the trash.
yeah, I think 6
should
foot
be-
high is probably good, because 4 foot, people are gonna be able to.
That's right.
We have that over at the DMV. We have a fence and it collects from a wide area.
I'm just throwing it out because if you view the property as having two frontages, then that's a variance. I don't view it that way because I don't think it's two frontages, but I just want to make sure
It's a very, very
everybody's
situation
comfortable
there,
with a
yeah.
6-foot fence surrounding it so we don't run into any.
Yeah, there's no parking there because it's blocked off.
It's blocked off, so it's literally
Yeah,
just a,
It's landlocked,
it's just a
really
piece of
now
tar.
around that division.
I mean, if you took the 2 parking spots right behind the property, then he could get there, but
No, I just would
We
rather,
need parking in the
if you
Right,
protect it with the enclosure and keep it neat, then I don't.
I would just suggest you check that enclosure, make sure it is neat, because it may look neat from the outside, but eventually it fills up and overflows. So I'm comfortable with your design.
And Craig, I had a question about the quality of the asphalt and cracking, but since it's going to be covered in the enclosure, I'm sure we should just ignore that because it's not going to be used for a vehicle, is what you're basically.
correct. Yeah, I mean, we kind of looked at, I mean, you got I think there's a utility pole, there's kind of a makeshift bush.
Right.
Right, whatever you want to call it. And then, because it's, you know, I
Right.
didn't physically go over there, but when you look at the street view and stuff, you can see the parking, old parking spots.
So if it's beat up, it's going to be enclosed and just moving trash cans around, so.
You better have a surface. So if it's, actually, the alley is ideal. So now he can store behind, but he can still get the,
Get the stuff out
Division
to
Street
Division Street.
and get it done,
Yeah.
done. So it's a good setup.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the public for any comments or questions.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to be clear on that, did we address the oil?
Internally, and just like we've done in other projects,
Similar to Village Brew.
Village,
Okay.
Where they have
I
the.
just wanna make sure it's not outside, that's all I.
Yeah, it's gonna have the connections, the back truck comes up in the parking lot, I envision, and it sucks it out, so they don't have the drippage and all the maintenance issues, but the used cooking oil.
Okay, anybody in the public have any questions? Any comments? Closing.
Here, I don't know if they had any for the applicant, we usually do them all at the end, so if we're doing
Oh,
one by one,
that's true.
if anyone has anything, questions for the applicant.
This was already, you don't have anybody else to testify, do you? Guys, you don't have anybody else to testify?
no, we've submitted architectural plans. Our architect is here. If you have any questions, if not, then we don't need to testify as to the interior floor plans. You can kind of get a good feel from, I think, from other locations.
And the front, that you're testifying that the image that you showed us of the front of the other store, that's basically what it's gonna look like?
I mean, not exactly, but, well, the front, the only thing that we're putting on the front
It's
is
the
the sign.
sign, you're not
Yeah.
touching the
No, we're not
window colors or
touching
anything, okay. It went down, Ms. Hess.
Just for edification, I think there's another mechanism, but if it's outdoor dining, you'll get the approvals at that point for outdoor dining.
We do
Just nothing-
anticipate, because there's very limited seating.
Okay.
And what I would ask is that, I know we've done this like for other locations, that we be permitted, at your discretion to approve that plan, and you can approve whatever you want to do, planters, whatever you think is appropriate, but we can add that to the site plan in compliance.
Yeah, there's a mechanism the borough has set up to handle this. I just don't know if the board is, we can certainly put that language in. It used to be the board handled this.
I was just gonna say, so what is the procedure now?
I don't 100% know.
It's administrative.
So you apply through the borough?
Yeah, there's a limitation on square footage, and then most people are doing planters.
Yeah.
There's some barrier between the sidewalk, and the restaurant dining area.
Okay, so
I don't
our
think
job
that's
as
required.
the planning board is just to say that we approve, we allow it, allow them
I'm not 100% sure, but I think
to, allow
it's,
them to apply?
Is this
Apply.
part of the DSA?
yes.
Yes.
Then the DSA gets it. Remember a couple of months
I
ago,
know.
there was a whole thing about they are gonna handle all that.
I would still like to look at it. if the
Save
board likes to,
thousands of
but I
So
dollars.
think-
included in our
Yeah.
approval is
I feel better.
basically saying we approve that they apply, is what you're saying, kind of thing?
I'm saying
Or do
that
we need to
I
see a
think there's a
plan?
mechanism, I think every restaurant is supposed to be getting approvals every year on their outdoor dining.
Right.
I think through the DSA. But in the past, because it's here, usually the planning board has felt comfortable at least seeing the layout
layout.
to make sure the board was comfortable with it. Either way, I'm just throwing it out to you, Mike, that,
Yeah, I mean, we intend to do it. We will go to DSA. That's, so.
But you're saying we should still see it and apply
I'd like to
also?
see it just to make sure everybody's comfortable with it, but,
I mean, are you saying DSA has the final approval?
I am not 100% sure. I know
Which
the
was
mechanism changed.
jurisdiction over that
They-
part of the
How about-
It was
Let's
there was an
follow.
issue that
Let's find
they
out.
took it away from the
Yes.
planning board and gave it to the DSA.
We don't have jurisdiction.
We don't have jurisdiction, no jurisdiction.
Let's find out, right, and then if they can come back.
They would have to come back for approval.
Well, it could be just informal, it could be like that we used to handle the
Like a waiver.
DSA on the signage.
Right.
It's not a board
You
here.
just have a waiver of it.
It was just a waiver just to make sure you see it, but as what Chris says, we can certainly we'll get the information for you. Make the
Yeah, what I would
resolution
suggest
Well,
reflect-
hold on.
Wait.
We have all the information right here. 'Cause Jenna just outlined exactly what it is that we need to do if you wanna just fill everybody in.
It's a seasonal sidewalk cafe application, so all of the restaurants who have outdoor dining, as he said, have to annually apply. They do submit their plans. There are restrictions as far as how much space they can use and with the stamp and the division.
And they applied to which body?
It's like an ARB application, so same way that they apply for putting up a sign.
Okay.
So there are,
You got the zoning
So it
members,
can
the
be
planning
done through like
members,
it doesn't have to be
DSA
done through the
members.
whole planning board, it
it
can be
goes
done
through
through.
our office, not through the DSA's office.
So we could just put that it's acknowledged that they're planning on making the application, they have to comply with
They
whatever
have to come
board
back and get
requirements
approval.
there are.
That's perfect. Just a quick question. Are there additional square footage on division that's allowed, or is it consistent with throughout the borough?
I'm not entirely sure, to be perfectly honest, saying that the pressed concrete is, I think it's from the curb, but I think the curb is defined differently with that.
Like
pressed
the
concrete,
ordinance,
but I'm
when you
not
look at the
positive.
registry ordinance, it discusses where you can have the
Okay.
outdoor cafe,
Yeah.
it talks about the
It is
middle has to be
slightly
open for
different.
fire trucks, but with the running bond.
Right.
So I think you're allowed to go out to the running bond and you get a cobblestone.
And there's always creeps.
Right.
As we like to say. Okay, comments, people? Anybody?
Well, Jenna actually answered my question. So I was gonna question the space, or how many tables they'd be able to go, but Jenna, you answered that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just have to wait and see.
Is most of your business takeout business?
Now it's changed after COVID. It's like 50% is like deliveries and takeout.
Is it all tacos? Is it all tacos?
No, it's tacos, Doritos, nachos, and quesadillas.
Oh.
All fresh.
What's your anticipated completion time to open up?
Well, we're hoping March of this year. So I mean, we got pushed back obviously to the zoning board, but hoping March 2024. I don't know how long resolution takes and stuff like that. I leave it to the experts, but I think our interior plans are ready. My architect can attest to that. So then just every town's a little different and getting approvals by permit. So I don't know how long this town takes, but usually, from my experience, it takes about 3 months to get the permit. So after that, about 3 months construction. So March, April, feel comfortable.
Okay.
Any public comment?
Any comment from the public? Hearing no comment, I'll close the public session. Okay, they're waiting. I know they're waiting. So, board members.
All right, so what we have here is an application for preliminary and final minor site plan approval. There were some variances noted in Mr. Cole's report, but the variance noted with regard to the fan has been mitigated by virtue of what the testimony of the applicant and the witnesses are. The conditions I have are that they will relocate the vent intake and exhaust vertically to bring the decibel level below the state requirement of 65 decibels of the property line. Hours of operation will be restricted to 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. They'll comply with the comments within Mr. Cole's report. Dumpster location in the rear, which will be screened by a 6-foot-high PVC fence. And not dumpster location, let's call it trash can location, because we're not going to do dumpsters. The sign will be as per the exhibit A4 and will be code compliant, otherwise they have to return back to the board. The vent will be painted or covered with a soffit to match the building. If the exhaust is shown to negatively affect the residents, it will be moved higher, so to mitigate that. And the board acknowledges that outdoor dining is contemplated by the applicant, and they agree to comply with whatever borough ordinance requirements relative thereto.
So, but just go back to the exhaust.
Yep.
I think one is moving back and one is going up.
That's correct. The intake's moving
Yeah.
back. and
So
the
I think
exhaust
you
is
worded
going
them
back.
as both going up.
Yes, I did. All right, so the intake is
Intakes.
moving back, exhaust is moving up.
Correct.
Anybody want to move?
I'll move.
Second.
Vote.
Ms. Kaczynski,
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilman Roon,
Yes.
Ms. Adair,
Yes.
Mr. Akins,
Yes.
Mr. Prestes,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mr. Adish,
Yes.
Ms. Warner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again, guys.
Get that done real quickly, I'll get your resolution done, guys. Hi, how are you? Good, thank you. Hi, John.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Morehouse Marcella LP.
I only have one copy of this, no? No. You want to see it, make a copy?
It's not a non-criminal use. It's yeah.
Are we setting up any interim? Okay. Let's begin.
Good evening, my name's John Sullivan. I'm an attorney with the Office of the Vascola and Sullivan. I'm representing the applicant. The applicant is Morehouse Marcella LP. It's the owner of the property in question, which is located at 89 Route 206, shown as Lot 1.02 and Block 124 on your tax map. It's on the northbound side of Route 206. And right now, it's fully improved with a shopping center that's been there for a number of years. The zoning for the property is within the stationary and landfill redevelopment plan. The use and bulk standards of the B6 shopping center district apply to this application. You may or may not recall this application has previously been before the board a number of times back in 1999 for the original shopping center approval. 2017 to convert some of the space to a medical facility. And then also, I'm going to say back in about 2005, give or take, you would approve this exact pad site that we're here for tonight for a bank. The bank never got constructed, other than some utility lines and things of that nature. So we're looking to, instead of a bank, put a Dunkin' Donuts pad right there. The Dunkin' Donuts that we're going to put here is already a tenant in the shopping center, and we're just proposing to really move them from the interior of the shopping center to the pad site. We are asking you for preliminary and final site plan approval together with bulk variances. The use is a permitted use within the zoning district. We have submitted several plans. A site plan by Stiers and Associates, originally dated January 27th of 23, and last revised 5/15 of 23. Drainage analysis also by Stiers Associates, which is dated May 4th of this year. And we prepared some, or submitted some architectural plans. Elevations by David Hartdown, dated April 5th of 23. A floor plan by Exalta Design, dated April 19th of 23. And a rendering that we had submitted as well as to what you can expect to see. But for the most part, it's typical Dunkin' Donuts style, typical Dunkin' Donuts colors. Nothing of a major departure there. Witnesses tonight, we have Gregory Verb, he's a representative of the applicant. We have our engineer, Craig Stiers, and our professional planner, Nicholas Graviano. So if we may, I would start with Mr. Verb.
Okay, so why don't we just get the preliminary stuff out of the way, all the notices and publications are in order. A1, the application and supporting documentation. A2 is the proofs of notice and publication. PV1 is Mr. Paul's report of July 3rd, 2023. Mike, you only had one, right?
I have one, 21.
Okay. And why don't we swear in everyone as witnesses, and then as you come up, you can state your name and spell it for the record. There we go. You swear the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Perfect. Mr. Burke? Greg, if you could just state your name, spell it for the record, please.
Gregory Burke, G-R-I-B-E-R-G.
And Mr. Verb, what is your position with the applicant?
My sister and I own it.
And the applicant owns this property, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long has it owned it for?
It was purchased in 2000. It was a 4-acre highway location. In 2004, we constructed a 16,000 square foot commercial retail facility. On about a third of the property, the other 2/3 is native woods, and it's been in operation since 2005.
And you now propose to construct a roughly 2,000 square foot Dunkin' Donuts restaurant on the pad site?
Yes, sir.
And I mentioned during my opening about the prior approval. Can you explain to the board what the prior approval was and how this application matches up to what was previously approved?
The original plan was to construct a bank. Since then, banks have invested less in brick and mortar and not so much on highway locations. It's a final opportunity for nothing to move over and
And back with that original approval, was there any work done in connection with that?
yes, sir. We ran laterals for sewer, storm, and water. We had electric on the pole now, 60 feet away. We sent underground to it, so all the infrastructure is in place.
And this Dunkin' Donuts franchise is already located within one of the shopping center units?
Yes, sir.
And the idea is to simply relocate that existing tenant to the pad site?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the operation of the Dunkin' Donuts? And could you explain to the board a few things? You know what the number of employees will be?
They currently have 2 to 4 employees. It would go to 4 to 6 employees at a time.
And what would be the hours of operation?
Hours of operation would not change. The existing are Monday through Friday, 5 to 8, Saturday, 5 to 7, and Sunday, 6 to 6.
And I assume by that you mean 5 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And so on and so forth. And what about the drive? We're proposing a drive-through here. What would be the hours for the drive-through? Are they match the same hours as the restaurant?
Yes, sir.
And what are you going to do in terms of loading and unloading? Where will that occur for this?
Had conversations with my dear neighbor Mona, and we have started loading the existing through the front to avoid for disruptions to sound. We would do the same thing.
And the front's located closer to 206 than it is to the residential.
With the building in between for screens.
And how do you handle refuse and recycling now, and how will you handle it if this application is approved?
There is an existing dumpster pad located in the southeastern corner, and it's sufficient for use.
And will there be seating for customers?
Yes, for 12 seats.
12 seats. And you submitted some architecturals. Can you give the board a brief description of the elevations and floor plans for the proposed building?
Yes, sir. We tried to keep the style of the existing facility congruent with the pad site. It's a 10,000 square foot rectangle. Tried to make it aesthetically pleasing. I think we've accomplished that.
And that will be in accordance with the plans we've submitted, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to direct you to Mr. Cole's report of July 3rd. And in particular, I wanted to go to performance standards, item number 5, which talks about the volume of the speaker box.
The volume of the speaker box is fully adjustable digitally. It is also facing away from the building and towards the south, towards the highway. It's as far away from the neighborhood as possible. And
In the way it's set up right now, you do not anticipate any adverse impact on the residents.
None whatsoever. The building is actually situated as far away from the residences as possible on the site.
And if there were problems, it could be adjusted to be a little less loud.
There is a volume right now.
Do you know offhand how far away the speaker box will be from the neighboring residential properties?
From the corner of the property to the house.
To the house.
I believe the house to the end lane of the drive-through itself is about 114 feet. So I would guesstimate, want my esteemed engineer to check on that, but about 165 feet. And the building would be between that, along with the multi-tiered buffer zone we have in place of 2 fences and trees and shrubs.
And then under performance standards number 6, something similar is whether the noise from the idling vehicles will adversely impact the adjoining residences. Are you able to address that, or would you want your engineer to address that?
I'm always happy to have my engineer address it, but I do believe that the sounds of the highway are still far superior to the sound of an idling car. Cars are not moving at high speed as they traverse the drive-through. And with the modified parking plan in the back of the existing facility, we actually get to increase our buffer zone for shrubbery and foliage.
And can you talk to the board a little bit about what buffering exists on the property? I know there's a natural wooded area already on the site.
Yes, sir. We have a series of, from the end of the curb, where the parking spaces are in the back of the facility, we have a series of shrubs, trees, a wooden fence, a 5-foot gap. We were able to grow some ivy on a large portion of that fence, then a chain link fence, and some trees in between the 2 fences.
And I just wanted to go back a moment to the speaker box. We can provide whatever detail that Mr. Cole has requested. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to the board the proposed sign for the Dunkin' restaurant?
It is in accordance with the national corporate standards in Dunkin'. Mr. Cole made a note that did not show the depth out. We will comply with under 8 inches. The light shining will be, all LEDs on site will be at 4K. Most of the signage lights and, for example, the decorative lights are access lights for decoration. Therefore, I would not put them on the unit plan of the building. They're not generating enough light to make a difference on that.
And item 6 under architectural, staying with the sign for a moment. He asked, are these actual signs or depicted to provide clarity?
They're proposed actual signs. All dimensions and specifications will be provided when we submit for the sign.
And then item 8 under architectural talks about some screening for the exhaust fans.
Yes, sir. The roof will have a parapet. It will be pitched front to back. The elevation of the building makes it such that they would not be visible unless you're somehow in an elevated position inside.
And then item 9, also with regard to exhaust fans, talks about showing that we can comply in terms of noise at the property line.
We will comply. It's an easy one. So not exactly Division Street.
And item 10, as I understand it, there's no cooking oil used on site.
There are no fires, no cooking oil on site.
And item 11 indicates that the plans do not depict the location of the HVAC. What is our plan for that location?
We have not commenced some structural drawings in fear of the board's ruling. We would anticipate doing 2 5-ton units towards the center of the building.
And then item 12 talks about protection for the rainwater leaders. I believe they are behind the curbing and kind of naturally protected by that, is that correct?
Yeah, I disagree with Mr. Cole. I'm not in favor of either putting the leaders in the building. It tends to be a moisture penetration issue. I'm not in favor of doing iron or anything, because if they do get impacted, instead of crunching some easily replaceable aluminum, you end up with building destruction. Also, where they're situated, a car would have to really work hard to jump the curb and probably go perpendicular to the line of traffic to impact them.
Yeah, Greg, it's not for cars, it's for people. You know, you have people, they always smash the roof leaders.
I'd rather replace aluminum than PVC.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's, the plumbing code requires it.
Fair enough.
I'm just coding the plumbing, I understand.
Yeah. It was, I guess it wasn't in the code when they did the original construction, and those are holding up great.
I hear you.
And the last item in Mr. Cole's report for you would be under general comments, item 4, where he's speaking to the block retaining wall and perhaps installing some fencing. Would you address that, please?
I would like to replace that block retaining wall with poured concrete and a stone veneer, as my esteemed engineer built the property up good enough where we've never once had a breach of floodwater in all of the area storms. I am not in favor of putting a fence there. I think it obstructs vision to the drive-through, which is a negative impact on the business. I don't see the purpose it serves. The lot next door is vacant.
Yeah, but that's the point, Greg, eventually it won't be. So you're gonna have the headlight flare going onto the property, that's the concern.
And we could address it at that time. I also believe a 6-foot would be very substantial there. If you wanted to go for a 4-foot for headlight glare or a 2-foot, okay. But I think you're boxing in an open space.
Right, I'm just saying you have the counterclockwise movement around that facility, because the headlight glare is coming around. And
How
then
about a 3-foot fence?
something, you understand the intent is
I see your
just,
point here.
I'm just trying to stop the headlight glare on the future property adversely impacting whatever it's gonna, eventually I'm assuming that's gonna be developed, but the flood hazard regs. That property is definitely in the flood hazard, the one below it.
So yeah, I'd be in favor of a short fence just for headlights. I would not want to screen it, so that way someone driving down 206 couldn't see how busy the drive-through is. If the drive-through does get stacked up, chances are they'll go down the road of roads and homes.
Understood.
That's all I have for Mr. Burke.
Any questions? Can we take a look at the engineer's testimony?
Well, Greg, real quick, the 5-ton unit, if you're anticipating putting the roof, is that gonna be screened or parapet, or are you gonna put some screening around that? Typically, they're rather large units.
As long as you don't have a curb adapter or not, we wouldn't have to have a curb adapter. I think the vantage point of the building, I believe we'll probably have about a 3-foot parapet there.
Do you think the parapet will still do it? Okay. If it doesn't, then you're okay with screening it. If it doesn't, down the road?
I'm never a big fan of screening as it's a giant sail on the back of the building for uplift, but if that's what needs to be done, so that it's not that different than the existing facility where it's not a problem.
Can we see on one of the drawings the direction of road for the fence? Can you drive us through?
So we can bring up Mr. Stiers for that.
Was this part of the application in its color form? No. No? Alright, so let's mark this as A3. This will be colored version of sheet, what, Craig?
7 of 8.
Say that again?
7 of 8.
7 of 8. You said 7B, I can't hear.
What was the,
A3.
Mr. Stiers had testified in the previous application. I'm sure his license is still in good standing, and we ask that he be so accepted.
I keep it on.
Keep clean.
Smart man.
Okay, Mr. Stiers, you prepared the site plan and drawings that we submitted to the board.
Yes.
And can you give the board a quick description of the site as it exists now, and then the proposal that we're setting for?
Sure. I will use A3. Deirdre, I can start with the circulation.
Yeah, that would be great.
This orientation, 206 is on the left-hand side, north is up. This is the existing site. What happens is 206 north, you would enter on the northern side. You can either turn in to the parking that's in front, which is two-way, or you can continue along. There's parking on the north side, and then also circulate through the back, and then exit the site on the south side to northbound. And I guess to back up a little bit, just to kind of orient my usual testimony. So the existing site is on the easterly side of Route 206 North. It's known as 89 Route 206, and it's lot 1.02, block 124. It does consist of 4.55 acres, and what you're looking at on the exhibit is basically 2 acres that is where the site is. So this area all the way down to the south side is the development. Everything else is natural woods, and it ultimately kind of ties into where I guess the redevelopment is of the borough. It should be noted, and John mentioned it in the opening. I also have, if I can make this an exhibit as well.
Yep, so make that A4. And what is that, a colorized version of?
This is the previously, or the original approval
Okay.
of the site.
Was that part of the application?
No.
Okay, so what is the title of that?
It's just noted as landscape plan, but it's the landscape plan from the redevelopment of the site
The
from.
bank approval, the bank pad approval?
Yes, that's where I was gonna kind of go into this.
Okay, so that was not the 99 board approval or the
2003,
2017.
2003 and 2000. So back in the day, we used to come in for preliminary approval,
Mm-hmm.
build it,
And then
and come back for final. So
Got
the
it.
preliminary was 2003,
Okay,
the final was 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
So
Right, so this is the landscaping plan from the redevelopment of the site approved in 2005.
right.
Great, okay.
And what was that happened then was this, the the Burb's father actually came in and it was a redevelopment plan for the site. There was a big building here, went right up to the edge of the, pretty much 206. And at that point, they were widening 206. So John came in here and with a redevelopment plan. That plan consisted of a 13,280 square foot footprint. So the footprint here is 13,280. Actually, on the north end, there's 3,000 feet on the second floor. So the shopping center itself is 16,280. Along with that approval, as you can see at the south end, was a 3,000 square foot bank site, independent pad site. So again, going back to the circulation, you came in on the north side, you came in either the front or to the back. The back led you to the drive-through. So this was a 3,000 square foot pad. The drive-through came in along the back and then came into the side of the building where you had the two drive-throughs. There was also parking in the front. As Greg said, everything was built for this approval, with the exception of the building itself. If you go out there now, all these parking spots are there, all these parking spots, this little island is there, the parking is in this location, the dumpster is in this location, the parking is here. In fact, the utilities are brought to the pad. And it's kind of at that point where things went south and, they said that the banks got away from the brick and mortar, so they didn't build the site. But everything else at this point is there, including the utilities. So I just kind of wanted to go through that there's really, all said and done, not too much of a change from what was originally approved, other than more the use than anything else. Going back to A3, I can kind of switch over to the proposed conditions. Go back to 2017. One of the tenants was switched out to more of a physical therapy, so it became more of a medical use. So we did come before the board to get the parking, the ADA parking approved for that. So this plan does account for there's all ADA along the north side, there's more ADA and the accessibility to get in. Other than that, really not too many changes since the original approval. Going now to the application before you, this is the 2,000 square foot pad site for the Dunkin'. One thing you can notice is between that, the original plan and this one is that the bank site was about 13 feet from the southerly property line. You can see that the Dunkin' building is over 30 feet from the side property line. And that gives us the ability to make the drive-through around the building. And so the access will be similar as the bank site, but the customers can come in, they would circulate along the south side, turn in, hit the drive-through. And one thing that is different from the Route 22 Dunkin', which we also did, is this has a bypass. So if you run out of time or whatever, the ability to bypass and get out of line and be able to get onto 206. They can also come in the front portion and then cross over the aisle and get into line as well. We've straightened out the parking on the south side as well as the east side to get the required parking for the site. We had angled parking here. By straightening it out, allows you to get more parking in roughly the same amount of space. As Greg mentioned, we also took advantage to get a greater buffer from the residents in the back. You can see the old line, or the line there now is a little bit closer. We pulled it away to allow for a bigger buffer. Additionally, we made the aisle in this location here 30 feet wide. That allows for better circulation for not only deliveries, although Greg said they bring them in the front, but for emergency vehicles as well. So that those trucks can make that turn easier. And yet we have kept the island, and we kind of reconfigured it, and the island is still there. The parking was adjusted in the front, but the parking in this location remains the same. The dumpster is right behind the site, so that's easy getting to the dumpster. As I said, all the utilities are virtually right to the building already. There is existing storm sewer along the southerly line, so that any of the roof leaders, we can tie them right into the existing storm sewer. And then lastly, the impervious coverage on the site is actually being reduced. So there is no need for any type of additional storm drainage or anything like that, other than tying in the roof leaders. And that all discharges to the back, which ultimately gets to that 2.5 acres of woodlands, the way it's currently going now. So I think that's both the existing and the proposed. So if there's any questions.
I just have a couple of questions. You're gonna have additional sign at the northern entrance to which way to go for the drive-through? Is there a preferred way? Go around the building, or are you just gonna let people just figure it out?
But I would say we probably want to go to the back, right?
That's a good question for my engineer.
Well, I think if they go to the back, it kind of eliminates the crossings, because if they come here, there's kind of in and out. So I would say we probably have a wayfinding sign at the north end.
Or stop signs? And
Yes.
Two-way stops coming
Yeah.
both ways, so you have to look.
Yep.
So you'll maybe do something like that also?
Yes.
Craig, what about the queuing? What's the anticipated? Because based on your drive configuration, once you get over 7 or 8 cars, you're blocking the lanes, the parking spaces, and then you start wrapping into the exit.
Well, I think we're up to 9 vehicles before it crosses over. But again, you know, for me personally, if I see a line that there's 9 cars there, I'm not going. Either that or I'm going in.
So I've also spoke with our tenant who's here. It takes about a minute and a half for them to process an order. He has a franchisee, also has a location in Middlesex with 7 spots, no bypass. And it's a higher volume location, and he does not experience backup there. So I do think we're adequate.
But I'm just saying, you have maybe 8 before you start blocking in the 90-degree parking spaces in the front. So that's the concern is, post-COVID, we've had tremendous run-up on drive-throughs, and the one that Craig that we did on Route 22, the testimony was that it was not going to spill out into Route 22, and now it does. So the only concern I have is the intersection. Let's say exit. You have plenty of queue. Let's say we queue up. If it's in front, it's just potentially blocking the exit.
Well, I would, as far as the intersection here is that, you know, again, like Larry said, we put a stop sign here, so, you know, if the queue can keep going here, and they would stop, and it'd be almost like a standard intersection. Once they get to the point that it's not like somebody's gonna get in front of them by coming in this way. So, you know, they'll just come across and then keep the aisle open. So.
And the backup is actually on the property, not on 206.
Well, multifaceted. I mean, you really could back up all the way along the back of the building, along the front of the building. I mean, if they're doing that kind of volume, it's good for them. And it is, you know, this is more unique than 22, because 22, your only thing is on to 22, whereas, you know, you got a ton of stacking on the property.
Right, I think the stop sign is just trying to keep the exit. It's only one exit out of the facility, trying to keep that area clear.
Yep.
Is the potential concern.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? I just have a quick question about delivery. So right now the store is open 5 a.m. in the morning. When do deliveries come? That early in the morning, or are they coming later at a reasonable hour?
At generally an unreasonable hour, which is why we stack them through the front, not to disrupt neighbors.
Yeah, so they can now come in this way as opposed to the back.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions for the engineer?
Are you gonna discuss the box, the ordering, the speaker box?
Other than just the distance, I can't speak to the nuances of it and the
Mike, do
decibels.
we have decibel levels on that? Because the comment about the highway noise is valid.
Yeah.
during peak hours, but at 5 AM, I don't think there's I mean, I'm not there, but I don't think there's a lot of highway noise at that time. And would these speaker box be more audible at that early time? Could we discuss, do we have any control over the hours of that station being open?
What we've done in the past for McDonald's is we've actually gone out there and listened to it and put a max on. But some of the new speaker boxes will go 1 or 2 decibels over the ambient. So
It adjusts itself.
it adjusts itself, but we've, to answer your question, man, we've dealt with that site-specific based on the existing site-specific application.
Because we spent countless hours on the 22 projects with Ivanhoe.
Yes.
And granted, the highway noise is louder than the speaker noise in the middle of the day. I'm just wondering at 5 AM, how much you could hear on Washington Place from that box. And I'm not a sound expert, but that would be a concern to me, that would have to be attenuated, either with the volume or with the hours. And I'd prefer to see the hours change.
Yeah, the one thing with Ivanhoe compared to here is, first of all, the speaker box is on the same side as Ivanhoe. You're probably 25 feet from the speaker box to the property line on the Ivanhoe side. Whereas our speaker box, as Greg said, it's in this location right here, facing away. So it's facing south. And then you can also see the distance just from the first house.
So the building's acting as a buffer.
Yes, exactly. So you have this corner of the building being the buffer, and then the distance alone. It's probably.
See the little square?
Well,
I live there.
Okay, hold on, we'll have some time, we'll have the point in time where you can make comments and questions.
So it's probably property line to property line, it's probably 3 to 4 times. If Ivanhoe is 25, I believe, like Greg said, I believe it's 125 feet to the property line, 160 to the house.
Mike, we would have the ability to do an as-built inspection and get the meters out there, which we did on Ivanhoe.
We've done that on the McDonald's. We've had sound studies done after post-development.
We could have that as a condition post-construction.
Post-construction.
In case.
To make sure that the sound is acceptable or not noticeable at the property line during core sleeping hours. It's very similar to how we've been addressing custom signage, like the Dunkin' Donuts signs. Instead of going over the foot candles and custom signs, what we've done is saying make sure it's dimmable, and then we can adjust that in the field as opposed to wrestling with, okay, it's 5 foot candles 4 feet away, then Craig goes, well, it's not really accurate because X, Y, and Z. So if should the board grant approval, that I would say that making the lighting dimmable and addressing the speaker box in the field to address that.
I like numbers, but sometimes numbers don't work in the real situation. So I want to be assured that it's not going to be, an intrusion, especially in the early, the wee hours. Thank you.
Anybody else on board have questions?
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for questions to the engineer. We'll have a chance for comments later. If you have any questions for the engineer. Can you state your name and your address, please?
My name is Terry Prokop, and I live at 91 Washington Place, which is the little building right there, not the house.
Little square?
See the little square?
Okay.
That's a 2-family.
Do you have a question for the engineer?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
One of the things that Mr. Cole has suggested is that there should be testimony regarding noise of idling vehicles, because there was no, apparently, any solution for sound attenuating walls or other features to mitigate the noise from idling cars.
Well, I can't say the actual decibels. I agree with Greg that the noise from 206 itself is going to be much louder than the vehicles. The other thing is, if you think about it, almost all new vehicles shut off when they're idling. So
Yeah, but then they start up again, so then you have the up, on, off, which is maybe more annoying than just an idling car.
Yeah, but again, you know, other than the 2 or 3 cars are on this side, everything else is on the opposite side, so.
So you have no-
But I can't speak to the specific decibels of the vehicles, other than I believe that the highway noise would probably be louder than the cars sitting, waiting for their orders.
Can you tell me what the distance is between the small house and the sort of the back of idling place of the cars?
So from the, to this one,
Yeah, yeah.
135 feet, and that's from the outside of the aisle.
I have a
Well, let me
question.
just see if anybody else, does anybody else have, do you have another question?
Well, I'd like to make a statement.
Well, we're gonna do that in a minute. Right now, we're just doing questions.
Okay, and the question is, are the lights on this property going to be dimmable?
They are not currently, would you like them to be dimmable?
They should be, because during the winter, I can see the Dunkin' sign as it is. I can hear that there are deliveries early in the morning to the back of the building, and they slam the doors. This is like 4:30 in the morning, and I wake up saying to myself, oh, it's time to make the donuts.
So I spoke with Myrna about 3 or 4 weeks ago on site, where she brought that to my attention. I addressed with the franchise owner, the owner of the store, to start moving deliveries towards the front, to address that. In terms of, is your complaint with the site lights themselves, the lights on the poles, or is your complaint with the signage?
I'm just concerned based upon looking at the, that was the other thing. The ordinance calls for no more than 8 inches, your plan is showing 14 inches away from the building.
That was a render that we will comply with.
Okay, and that was my concern about the lighting, because it's, so high over the fence.
But again,
But they're not, it's not facing you though.
yeah, it's facing down, and we're also that we're pulling this parking further away.
So you're putting that parking straight into the fence, and I've got windows right there where you're putting that straight into the fence. The angle now, lights go away from the property when you do that. And the fence, the current fence, is 20 years old, it is warped, you can see through it, and that light's gonna go straight through, and the back out there is 2 bedrooms. I'm very sincere.
I'd be happy to walk that site with you and put an appropriate screenage. The complaint has never been brought forward.
I don't know why you wouldn't, because you're trying to bring the whole property forward by doing this, why you wouldn't consider replacing the entire fencing with at least a 7-foot-high, solid vinyl plastic fence.
So that fence
Less
was,
maintenance?
the wood fence at the time of approvals was what the neighborhood preferred.
If I could interrupt, so, if we don't, we can work this out, but right now, I just want questions for the engineer.
Okay.
Does anybody else have a question for the engineer from Beverly? Can you just state your name and your address?
Mike Prothero, 85 Washington Place.
Mike, I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Prothero, Prothero. Right, thank you. I guess getting back to Terry's first comment, we were talking about where the cars were queuing up, and you were saying, Mr. Stubbs, that the best path would be around the back of the building, which is right alongside the homes over there. So is that your idea of flow path, that they would be queuing up along the back of that building?
I wouldn't expect the queue to get that long, their path to get to the drive-through.
And they're crossing the cars coming out of the drive-through in order to get into it?
Well, there's a stop sign here, they would cross it, yes. So, but, they can go either way, they can come this way or they can go around. I mean, there really is no control over.
The shortest pass is through the front, and that's where the visibility is.
Right.
I would anticipate us observing the existing traffic there, most would go through the front.
And then we were talking about the placing orders, so that's on the south side, and then where's the pickup window?
On this side.
And the pickup window is that top one.
Right.
And as they go around that turn, is there anything to prevent all the headlights from those cars aiming right towards the residential neighborhood?
Well, there is.
Besides the flimsy fences there.
There is a grassed island here, and there's a grassed island here. There's an opening for the bypass, so if somebody jumps out of line, they can get out.
But the grass island is just grass, it's not, it won't shield
You can
headlights.
put plantings in. I mean, we're kind of going off what was previously approved. I think they had one tree in that island previously.
Yeah, but the bank didn't have hours the same as it
It
does.
didn't have cars driving around that. So the biggest concerns clearly are the idling cars, noise from cars stopping and starting, headlights from cars, sound from people placing orders.
Okay, go ahead.
I just had a comment about the lighting, Greg. In the past, we've done security lighting during times when it's not used much. Is that something that can be done, at least in the back, the security lighting?
It could be done. I would be more than happy to walk the property with my neighbors to find out what specifically their concern is and address it specifically. I did not receive a clear answer on whether it was the shoebox pole lights on the site or the Dunkin' signage. I don't understand what light it is. Can it be modified with a shield, something as simple as that? Perhaps. Let's walk in and find out. I've been very agreeable with my neighbor Myrna. If the neighbor calls, we respond to it.
Okay, I just thought I saw somebody else with their hand. Yes.
Yeah, hi, Joe Pomar, 77 Washington Place. So, I guess ask it really as a question, would you acknowledge that this is a much more active use of the site, kind of as Mike said, as opposed to a bank building, which was your prior approval for this pad? And then really a corollary to that is, are you aware there's a lot of unmuffled vehicles? They're even on Washington Place. And there's a lot of cars that come off, whether motorcycles or unmuffled sedans, which if you put them queued up right on the property line next to the residences there, that would be a very, very obnoxious condition really for the people who live there, particularly at 5 in the morning when, there's really very little traffic noise on 206. So basically my question is, how did you analyze the difference in the use of the site now? This is a much more active use where you're going to circulate vehicles. If you're successful as a Dunkin' Donuts, you're going to theoretically bring a lot of vehicles through this property from 5 a.m. and onward with headlights going into the neighbors. You're going to have people crossing over one another as they go in and out and around this. It's a bit of a pretzel, the circulation. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed people tend to honk their horns and they're not exactly the most accommodating, particularly on that highway. And then lastly, how did you...
Why don't we take these one at a time, just so
Sure,
we can kind of
okay.
answer them. So go ahead, why don't you start there? And
I think your first one is the comparison of the Dunkin' versus, now you gotta compare, is it a bank now or a bank then? So a bank then, when it was approved, I would say they're comparable. Because they were brick and mortar, people were going to the banks, they're going to the drive-throughs. Yeah, people do it all online now, so you can't, that's not comparing apples to apples in this day and age. So you need to compare back then to versus now. The other thing is, you have the Dunkin' there now. I mean, this is more of a convenience thing to get them in and out. But, if they have consistent patrons, they're there now.
But wouldn't you acknowledge that a Dunkin' is more of a many, many more transactions in a given 12-hour shift than a bank?
The transactions are already existing.
Well,
we're having questions. Guys, we really have to, this is for the record, this is a transcript that we have to have. So one question from someone, one answer from someone. If, Greg, if you can help with the answer, there'll be an appropriate time for that. But let's just keep this as orderly as we can.
So what is the demand after, say, 10 o'clock for a Dunkin'? From 10 to 6? I mean, it's a breakfast place for the most part. So it does go down substantially.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you support that with really market data, because, once this approval is made, you're going to have a very active use of a formerly passive site, and it will be up to the people who live next door to then bring a cause and say, hey, this property, unlike what the engineer said, is very active after 10 a.m. in the morning.
Well,
But at that point, the approval's been done.
but again, you're looking at it, it's a passive site in that location because there's nothing there now.
Well,
So
I mean,
again, you're not comparing what was approved versus what we're amending it to. I mean, it's a drive-through to a drive-through.
Yeah, but Craig, you're not amending, it's a new
It's
application.
a new application. Did you have one more question, or was that your last question?
yeah, I think that was my last question
There'll
for
be
now.
time for comments. This is just questions. Yes.
I do.
State your name and your address, please.
Myrna Samsky. I reside at the larger brown house that's right next to the mall. Okay, 105 Washington Place.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask if I could just have permission to go stand by the engineer because I wanted to point to something on the map. 20 years ago, Dennis was here, so we go back a long ways, right, Dennis? While we were doing the
I
approvals.
remember the
Yeah.
original,
He walked many times on my
when the
property.
fence was
so-
new, I remember, yeah.
Yeah, he did. What I wanted to point out and why I'm asking this question is Gregory and I have talked about this. Gregory and I even walked on the property a couple of months ago. I am so upset, my whole family is, about having 17 parking spaces. I'm standing here.
Okay, we have questions for the engineer?
Yeah, so the question is, how did you arrive at that? Because Gregory said you changed it to triangle or to parallel to make
Vertical.
more room. So can you explain a little bit more to me because I'm totally opposed to it.
So why was it necessary to change the parking?
Well,
I think is your question.
To meet the parking requirements.
Yeah, but it's their parking requirements, right? It's like, see, my house is right here, here's the chain link fence, and just so I can throw in here, right here, where the parking lot is where the 18-wheeler for Dunkin' Donuts comes, and they were there last night.
All right.
They
so
have not stopped, they have
You
not.
will have a
left.
chance to comment. This is just questions. So, Mr. Stiers, can you just explain why you need more parking?
To comply with the order. I mean, if the board is willing to grant the variance for the parking.
No, but I'm not asking that. What is required by the new Dunkin' Donuts drive-through that requires more parking? How much more parking is required by the new addition of that building? That's what I'm asking.
I have it as being a free board of 20 spaces. If you use the shopping center criteria, Greg, you only need 66 spaces and 86 is proposed.
Yeah, so then in the.
I use the shopping center because it's a shopping center. That's how I came up with the
Because you've already
66.
got 12
Yeah,
here.
thank you.
Part of the
Thank you.
shopping center. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's a shopping center, so when you have a shopping center, it's inappropriate to carve out, you treat the whole shopping center.
Okay.
And the ordinance says for the, to a certain size of the shopping center, it's 1 per 250 GLA, gross leasable area. So that's how I came up with 66 using the gross leasable area, and there's 86 proposed. So that's how I came up with it.
So what is there currently right now? I'm sorry. What
Yeah,
is
but
currently on the
Mike-
site right now?
86.
86?
No,
No.
86 are proposed.
Yeah.
66, there's less than 86
There's
right now.
66 right now?
No, 66
No, there's
required.
more than 66.
No, there's more
There-
than 66.
So there's more than what is actually required currently on the site, but I'm not talking about what's proposed in this, okay, that's what my question
Right.
is. Thank you.
So they don't need to change the parking.
Thank you, I was
So Mike, the medical can be treated as shopping center.
It's all in the same.
Well, when we did the medical, that's what we got run to the ringer for.
It was the ADA in the medical. It was the ADA, and then we had the whole
I
thing
mean,
about the 2%.
obviously Greg doesn't want to build more than he has to, so if the board is okay with leaving this area in the back, we will leave it.
Yeah, they already have 12 spaces.
Yeah.
They're not used anyway.
I mean, what I'm saying,
Well,
Greg,
again, they're not being used, so I'm fine with putting them back the way they were.
when I drive by, I never see the back spaces being used.
They're generally used by employees. The asset to this plan was to increase the buffer zone away from Murray's house.
It's about a
That was more than
Okay,
that.
guys, he is trying to get a record of what's going on here. By everyone talking, it's really making his
You're
job
right.
difficult. I'm
Exactly.
so sorry. This is
Right.
not to stifle you at all.
No,
Everyone
thank
will
you.
have a chance to talk, I promise.
Okay. Any more questions from the public? I will now close the questions. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's my understanding that hours of operation should be limited to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. when you're within 200 feet of the residential zone. Is this within 200 feet?
Yes.
So why are we talking about 5 AM?
Well, just for the board's benefit on that question, at McDonald's, we restricted the hours, and then we came back after they had a track record, and the board was comfortable with the operation. So that's what the mayor's saying about being comfortable at 5 AM. We've done an interim, Craig, for lack of a better word, saying, okay, you're, let's say it's 7 AM. If it's going well and there's no problems, the board is entertaining reducing openings at an earlier time. That's what happened at McDonald's.
Well, we let the McDonald's open, but not the drive-through open.
Then we added the hours.
let them have the
They wanted to be open at a time after 3 or 4 years, and the board, I think, granted that because of the history.
What are the current hours of the current Dunkin' Donuts?
5 AM.
So currently they open at 5 AM already.
5 to 7, 5 to 8, and 6 to 6 on Sunday.
Yeah. And he's absolutely right, the drive-in establishments, the hours are 7 to 11 by the ordinance.
That's one of the
Yeah,
areas
just
that
wanted
they
to show
could
on record
consider.
what was current.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we're gonna close the public session for questions,
I wanted to say
discussion.
that McDonald's, we went through all of the sound engineering, we built a more substantial sound wall. That's why it got approved with the restricted hours. That's why we let it go, because they have a sound wall there. We went through the engineering and the sound engineers and all of that. We did the same thing to Taco Bell. But they reoriented part of the building, and they changed something. So I'm just saying that I don't think it's gonna be a good idea. First thing is to route it around the building. I think you should not do that. Make everybody come in and go along the front. That would reduce the traffic. The deliveries, if they still have to go to the Dunkin' Donuts, they're gonna have to get a way to get there if they have to go around the building and park next to it for the temporary, because there's no way to get behind the Dunkin' Donuts. You can't get behind it, there's no paved road. So the only way to get deliveries, you either gotta hand truck them across the front, in the front of the building, or drive around the building and pull up as far as they can. Turn the trucks off, so they're not running. But I think that rebuilding the existing fence line, if it's as bad as they're saying it is, and it's been 20 years, and it has been, and it needs to get adjusted, that may help in visual screening and noise screening. And I think that those extra parking spaces in the back, I think there's a benefit because it does pull it away from the fence line. But I think you should substantially fix that fence. If it's decrepit and falling apart and it's 20 years old, then let's do this. Boost it up, make it a little bit more substantial, and that can certainly help with screening and visual for everybody who said that.
I think the other thing potentially to do, if we don't need all the parking, is we can break it up. So instead of 17 straight spots, you could leave it the way it is, if the board's so inclined. Or if we do it this way, we break it up and put islands in there, and we can put landscaping in those islands. But,
That'll work
I mean, if
too,
the board's
because-
okay leaving it the way it is, I think that would be, and the neighbors are fine with that.
It's 12 spaces now, angled parking, 12 spaces. And the new area is 17, so that's,
5 more.
and you're over anyway.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
I like Larry's idea of encouraging strongly the drive-up people to use
The front.
the driveways, the highway side. I just don't like the potential conflict of people who haven't had their coffee yet trying to maneuver that corner.
And you get more of a controlled intersection right here.
Yeah, because
I
they
just-
can't
I want
block
the
they can't
less
block-
noise in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And it's not gonna deter anybody from going there. If they end up stacking in front of the other building, you go, then okay. It's just not-
And
Building
again,
acts as a buffer for the
and
sound.
again, the intersection kind of controls the queue.
Yeah.
So instead of them crossing it, they're stopping and waiting.
Right. You can put some signage up right at the driveway entrance.
It's like a wayfinding
Just a
sign.
wayfarer sign.
Yeah.
Then you have queue of probably the 20 cars or 25 before you hit 206.
And then going back to the blocks and the hours. The ordinance right now is 7 to 11. I want to encourage them to be successful. We want every business in town to be successful. But it is somewhat close to a residence. Maybe not as close as McDonald's, and each situation is different.
Can we get,
But I'd like to see, the 7 to 11, and if they're successful, and if it works, and if the residents are happy, we could always open it up more. If we start with 5 to 11, it's going to be hard later on to restrict it.
can we get like a number of like how many people between 5 and 7 are actually using Dunkin' Donuts?
Depending on the day.
We're gonna have to swear you in, we're gonna have to give you your name. You swear the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Great, can you spell your name for the record?
My name is Jay. Last name is Amin, Amin.
You said that was Jay?
Yes.
And I'm sure the attorney's gonna wanna just clarify who you are and how you're testifying.
I'm a current Dunkin' Donut operator since 2004.
At this location?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Min, the question is, can you give the board an idea as to how many customers you get now between, say, 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.?
It depending on the weather, it depending on the day of the school, or the traffic, and on a lot of other conditions, not one particular. Monday might be really slow, Tuesday might be slow, Friday might be little there, but normally I get between 5 and 6, about 20 customer, 25 customer, and 6 and 7 maybe about 35.
Thank you.
Drive-through.
One thing I want to mention, and I'm conscious of the hours and drive-through here, but could it be something that we allow the hours to continue, but before that happens, we take some sound readings, like at the property line maybe, to see if this speaker is actually impacting either the property line and or the house, 130.
Yeah, that's,
Like, I think we can make it all work as long as we're checking that. And if it doesn't check out, the speaker needs to be adjusted or the hours need to change.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than saying, hey, we're going to reduce your hours, come back later. Because I think that might be an unnecessary hurdle if there's no impact to the property owner next door.
And I agree with Chris, because that's what we've done with other restaurants. I think to stay consistent in what we've done in other applicants throughout the town with bordering, and some are closer with that Ivanhoe, some of them are even closer than these. And we were just as self-conscious of that for them and aware of that, and I think it's more about sound, and if applicant can prove that it is not, that sound meets all standards and requirements, and the residents are happy with that, I think we allow those hours to continue, because I agree, we restrict them now and then we go back, makes it harder, but I think it has to be a condition of.
Right, people are used to coming there at 5,
So-
we want them to stay
so-
coming there at 5.
So I think that's a mutually, usually sound related towards that. And then the other thing is, if we're worried about headlights and lights on these properties, which is understandable, can we make a conditional approval, improvement of the 8-foot fence, and the whole fence should, if it's.
It should block all the headlights, for
Right.
sure.
Because if I see a queue over here in the front, and I'm in a hurry, I'm gonna go around that. You can put signs up, you can yell at me, I'm gonna go around that.
If you're a regular, you
I'm
kinda
gonna
know.
sneak in, I'm gonna get my car, right? So anyway, just I think it can all work the way it is with some steps here.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for comments. Please try to
Do
keep
you
them.
have one more witness, right?
You do.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. Let's have your last witness.
This will be our planner, Nicholas Graviano. And although planners never like to hear this, I'll ask him to condense his testimony as much as possible.
Good evening, board. My name is Nicholas with an H, Graviano, G-R-A, V as in Victor, I-A-N-O. I'm a planner and partner with Graviano and Gillis Architects and Planners with a business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Holmdel, New Jersey.
And you've been licensed for how long?
I've had my license since 2003. I hold a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University, a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers University, and a law degree from the Temple University School of Law. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I hold an AICP certification. I have been qualified by this board in conjunction with the Somerset Station Urban Renewal Project, and I've also been qualified by the zoning board as well. Thank you for having me. I'll keep this brief. The witnesses before me have done an excellent job of describing this application. The applicant is here before you tonight requesting preliminary and final site plan approval for a specific piece of property known as Block 124, Lot 1.02, with an address of 89 Highway 206. The applicant is requesting a 2,000 square foot pad site to accommodate the existing Dunkin' restaurant, which currently exists in the inline portion of the shopping center. I think when you look at this application, which is permitted use in the zone, that's why we're here at the planning board, the applicant's relief that it's requesting tonight is very minimal in nature. Firstly, the applicant is requesting a variance for the minimum front yard setback, whereas 150 feet is required, 70.7 feet is proposed. This is an irregularly shaped property. The existing shopping center does not possess that 150-foot setback. The applicant is designing the shopping center with many goals in mind. The first being to move this building as far away from the residents as possible, and then two, to utilize the existing circulation pattern and driveway which exists today. The applicant's proposed setback is in line with the existing parking lot, as you can tell in the engineering plans that you've seen in previous testimony. Additionally, we've discussed the hours at length. The applicant is requesting those 2 earlier hours, whereas 7 a.m. is required, 5 a.m. is requested. I would like to note that the applicant is actually closing earlier than what's allowed by ordinance. The applicant is also requesting a variance for the number of wall signs. The applicant is requesting 2 wall signs on the building. The first wall sign would actually face 206 itself. The other wall sign would be visible by motorists traveling north on 206. So for this freestanding site, it actually makes sense to have that second wall sign because the motorists traveling on the highway will see the sign on the building. Certainly, all of these variances could be granted under the C2 criteria, whereas hardship need not be demonstrated. What must be demonstrated that it relates to a specific piece of property. Here you have an existing 4.55 acre shopping center with an underutilized portion of the site that was previously approved for a bank drive-through use. The applicant must also show that it advances the purpose of zoning of the municipal land use law. This project certainly advances purpose A, promotion of the general health, safety, morals, and welfare. And that's done through a couple different items. One, as you heard in the engineering testimony, the applicant is actually reducing impervious coverage with this project. Additionally, the applicant is increasing the buffer distance between the neighbors and the parking lot. Additionally, it helps advance master plan goals, which stayed on page 6 of the 2019 master plan, to encourage development and improvement of non-residential uses in designated areas. A strong business community is vital to the fiscal health of the borough. You have a 19-year user who seeks to improve and modernize the business. Certainly, as you all know, through the various applications that come before your board, in the highway context, users such as Dunkin' are looking for drive-through amenities, and that's the modernization of that use and the encouragement of the improvement of the non-residential use on that site. This proposal also advances purpose G, providing sufficient space and appropriate location for a variety of commercial uses to meet the needs of New Jersey citizens. As I stated previously, this is a permitted use in the district. on a 4.55 acre site, which can certainly accommodate the proposed use, which is before you this evening. And then lastly, this proposal certainly provides a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. The applicant has committed to an extensive landscaping package. The applicant has agreed to work with the neighbors on improving the fencing in the rear of the property, so certainly a desirable visual environment is promoted by the granting of this application this evening. None of these variances create a substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. The applicant has provided mitigation measures to alleviate any potential ills created through the granting of these variances.
Any question? That's your last testimony, yes.
That is, I spoke to Mr. Verb during Mr. Graviano's testimony. I think if the board would be willing, he just wanted to speak a little bit about some data that he does have with regard to the speaker box.
Want to do questions of the plan or just do general questions of the public at the end and then comment? Questions for everybody.
Thank you.
In regard to the speaker box, the system was brought up about Dunkin' Donuts having active noise control. I believe this was submitted. Dunkin' signage is more or less the exact same as that. It has the agency, it is fully adjustable.
Just tell me what you're referring to, the signage or the speaker box?
The speaker box.
Okay. All right, so what he's referring to was submitted with the application, yep. It says engineering department, white paper, HME discusses drive-through sound levels.
So I am not an expert on the subject, but it is a standard for drive-through speaker box employees these days. Much like the dimmable lights, same concept.
And your understanding is it's designed to control the noise from the speaker box in conjunction with the environment,
the ambient noise first,
and therefore would not exceed the decibel levels at the property line as required by the regulations.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions for the planner and for comments, but please try to keep them brief, and if somebody makes the same comment, just say ditto. We'll get out of here sometime soon. Okay, opening up to the public. Yes, in the back.
Yes, how you doing?
Your name and address, please. I know even if you've already come up, again, it's really just for the record, so I apologize.
Glenn Thorne, 112 Washington Place.
And your comment is?
Okay. As my neighbors have pointed out, as Larry pointed out, a couple other people have pointed out, that fence is no good. You can see through it. My problem is where I'm at that top brown spot. So when cars come in now, as it is, headlights are hitting my house. Okay? Once again, a solid fence, noise barrier would be great. As for sending people around back, no good, in my opinion, no good. You're going to be affecting a quiet neighborhood, now it's going to get noise. A sound barrier, like Larry said, by McDonald's would be great, right? As for any runoffs, I don't know if there's going to be should be no problems on Washington Place with the rain runoff, with the water runoff. But once again, I think the fence line is a big topic. With all my neighbors here have said the same thing. Lighting, noise, you get, no matter what kind of mix up you're going to put out there, cars are going to come around back. They're going to come around back, all right? Now they're coming into our neighborhoods. Sound barrier, something solid where we're not going to hear things. We're going to go see headlights coming in. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay, I respond.
No, I think it's a chance for the public to respond. Anybody else want to make a comment?
Once again, Terry Prokop, 91 Washington Place. One of the things that I wonder about, my guess is you're going to approve this, but not statutory, case law says that you have to prove that this isn't just for your benefit, that it's going to actually benefit the community and improve the zone. I don't think your testimony has done that. I think your planner really did a great job at spinning the C variance requirements. But I don't think you did it. I think it's for your sake only. You don't want to lose a good tenant. So you say, oh, let me put a building in. Won't hurt you. 25 cars an hour at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and those are 2 bedrooms there. Those lights are coming around and around and around.
Okay, I would ask that you would make comments to the board, not so much to the
Well,
applicant.
he
Yeah, I
looked
know.
at me, so I addressed
Yeah, but
him.
make the
But
comments
that's
to
what
the
I'm
board.
saying. I figured you're gonna approve it, but I don't think it improves the zone at all.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? So,
Yes. I'd like to step back into one of
Your
the.
name? Myrna, it's Myrna.
Myrna Samsky.
Thank you.
105 Washington Place. Okay. Earlier, there was some discussion when we talked about the Dunkin' Donuts delivery is going to be coming in the front of the building. It's not. It has not stopped. I just explained that to Greg earlier. He says, no, it has. I said, no, it is not. From my living room and bedrooms, you can see, because it's like right from where, closer than Dennis is right now, where the 18-wheeler truck comes to deliver all the donuts. It was doing it at 2 or 3 in the morning. Then graciously, Greg did talk to Dunkin' Donuts about a month or 2 ago, got them to at least get it back into an earlier time, but the earlier time is not daytime, which we wanted. It's been like 8, 9 at night. He was there last night, 8 o'clock, Dunkin' Donuts with the 18-wheeler. It's gotta stop. It's
behind
just
the building.
It's unbelievable. Yes, behind the building. Even though the owner has said it stopped, it's not. They've got to go to the front. And that just, I'm saying it publicly so somebody can help here so we can, get that corrected. And I'm just saying it in front of you that it is not stopping. We took some pictures of it last night. And picture this, an 18-wheeler outside your bedroom window. You wouldn't like it either.
No.
The other thing is, I think you earlier in the meeting had said that you like to discuss trash or something like that. You were joking.
When we were talking about the restaurant, yes.
Yeah. The only thing on there that we haven't talked about, because it's not really Dunkin' Donuts, is the existing trash bins that are on the site. Way at the corner. It looks like it's very innocuous little dot on the thing. But Greg knows this. They have got, somehow have to enclose it. You've talked earlier about enclosing trash areas. These are left open all the time from the Dunkin' Donuts people. And it creates, they have squirrels and rodents and everything in the area. We've even had squirrels like stuff their donut up by a window when they go to the, that may sound funny, but it's not funny in the scheme of things. So I wanted to bring those 2 things up because I think they're really important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board?
Mike Rocco again. So I would second everything that my neighbor said. What was the other one I was thinking about? So the other thing about the dumpster, when they go to empty that, it is at all kinds of odd hours, and they must shake it like 20 times because it sounds like thunder outside the window. But kind of on what Terry was saying about kind of the applicant proving that this is for the public good and is a benefit. And we had this conversation a couple of years ago, I think, when there was a car wash, yet another car wash wanted to build right next to this. Is why do we need a drive-through donut shop? Its importance is literally less than 2-minute drive, going the same direction. And anyone who's driven through the Somerville Circle, which I'm sure all of you have many times, it backs right up onto the highway. So there's a source right there. Why do we need another one half a mile away? If you don't want to drive towards Somerville, you can go up to Route 22 and get it up there.
Thank you.
I guess, and frankly, if you're going to get donuts, getting out of the car for 5 seconds to walk in is not that much of a big deal. And parking in the front of the building is way less disturbing to the residents than cars looping around the building. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, it's Joe Pomar again, 77 Washington Place. Yeah, I'll second what everybody's been saying here, the neighbors, but I don't know if you're aware, an idling truck behind that building can be heard. My house is right at South Midoff Street. It empties into Washington Place. I can hear the idling truck back there when it's parked in back. But really, you know, Mr. Graviano talked about this as being, I don't know, healthful use of the site. You know, I just think basically, as Mike says, just like the car wash, we have an overzealous use of the site. It's surprising to me this is really the same permitted use, because it's a much more active site when you start driving 25, 35 cars an hour through this site and looping around another box and crossing over one another to get back onto the highway. Basically, nobody's really addressed the idea of, for instance, idling cars and particulate, you know, exhaust and going into the neighborhood. And we've been really fortunate. We have a lot of young, new families in the neighborhood. A lot of them have kids under 3, 4 years old. And same thing we said really about the car wash. When you started running a bunch of idling vehicles, many of these vehicles are unmuffled, so they're very loud. And yeah, there are cars that turn on and off, but it seems to me, you know, a lot of the guys and young ladies who like to drive the sedans are totally unmuffled. And if you stack those up in a queue at 6 a.m., it's going to be very loud, not to mention if you put motorcycles, which often come through Somerville, through the site. So basically, you know, the other thing is, as Mr. Graviano said, you know, this is part of the landfill and the gateway to Somerville. And I think, you know, stacking cars up in an idling, you know, crisscross pattern on this site is going to be actually sort of detrimental to the gateway to Somerville that you've been talking on. And then the other thing is in Ida, we've had terrible flooding in the area, and you know, hooking more sewage into the residential line where you know, is also going to put an added burden on the neighborhood. So I would just say this is really a burdensome use of the neighborhood, and as Terry stated, it's really to the benefit of the property owner and perhaps the tenant, but there's no real demonstrable benefit to the people in the neighborhood, and you know, that's basically the bottom line. And if you can look at Mike there, you can tell he doesn't eat donuts, you know. So anyway, I would leave it at that. I think the property is perfectly fine as it is. I feel like we're trying to put 10 pounds of coffee into a 5-pound bag with the new use and stacking the cars running around the property. So.
I'm going to close the public session. Discussion?
We normally go through the engineering
We
report.
did, yeah.
Craig, are
This
you
one-
okay with all the comments? Is there anything that you take exception to? Truncated dome, parallelizing the sanitary sewer line, if it's the old, the normal comments?
I would say, well, as far as the sewer, it was put in with the shopping center, so.
So it's PVC?
PVC, and it never had any
Okay,
low
so
codes, so it's in good
that's
shape.
Yeah. Greg, you give me some documentation or something on that? Is there anything that we need to discuss, Craig, in the report that?
One, just to clarify, the parking, the queuing is specifically in the ordinance. It's in the schedule of parking.
What do you mean the queuing is?
Comment 4A1,
Okay.
queuing of vehicles drive-through is never considered parking spaces. That's what we use on Duncan on 22, and if you look at the schedule of parking on sheet C2, for drive-through restaurants, it specifically says the stacking of vehicles is permitted as parking. But that's just a clarification.
That's crazy talk.
It is crazy talk. I mean, the rest of the stuff is, you know, typical.
We normally go through.
Working out with Mike.
If you're good with the comments, there's no reason to. We can, I understand the PVC.
We talked about the lighting, we talked about,
The spot grades, I know you can comply with that, the ADA, the truncated domes, TC.
cooking oil we talked
Yes.
about.
Stormwater management.
We're going down.
We're gonna do that. Oh, converting the curb faces to be the eco.
I think we have to do that.
Have to do that.
The one note with the street trees, I don't think we have to do them, but 3.5 inches and 12 to 14 feet are
right.
a little big.
There was a waiver request
For the trees.
For the trees.
But we have trees along 206 already.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
But overall, if we're going.
So is it a waiver or not? Because they're there already, so.
Right.
So why is it 1, 2, 3 parking, 5 parking spaces? Oh, you're supposed to have more, is what you're saying, but you don't have room for them?
That's correct.
Okay. So you don't have room for more trees?
Correct.
Well, in the back, if we're
In the
gonna
buffer
do
zone.
Well, the buffer, yeah, but street trees.
Right.
We're good.
But you can put them somewhere on the property, let's put it
Yes.
that way.
Well, I think, you know,
Well, hold on, I'm confused. Street trees, it says are complied with.
Okay.
Shade trees, it says are not.
okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So a waiver, they've requested a waiver for 7 shade trees.
There might not be because of the additional landscaping in the island
Of the-
and the rear.
The wilds and the back.
The island, should the board approve this, the island that we had talked about with no landscaping to the south of the
Well,
turnaround.
can I ask the question, what's the board's opinion of the parking in the back? I mean, if it's not, if you did,
It seems like it creates a better buffer to the residents, so that's a good thing. So,
reduce the number?
Meaning leaving it as is.
yeah, so I think that, well, I would.
We're reducing the number, we're keeping them whatever, you know what I'm saying, straight.
Angle.
parking.
Angle. If you make them
Maybe-
angle, then you
maybe
reduce.
back in the
Keeping them
angle.
straight, leaving them straight does give more of a buffer, but reducing what they have on the
number that
plan
you
back
have.
to what they originally had now, so.
So, one option, they keep them perpendicular,
Yeah.
as you can see, but maybe lop off the ones on the end.
I was gonna say
That
the
creates
ones,
a bigger
buffer,
buffer
yeah.
throughout.
Yeah.
So you're pulling it away, we don't need 5 or 6 spaces, I
I'd
mean, you
rather
have to
you
work
turn
that
that
out
green.
right.
Right, but the question is really for Rory, do you really need those spaces? You've been operating the site for 20 years or so.
The only time I've ever seen the lot full was when Circle Lighting went out and we donated all the fixtures that had that for humanity by the sale. That was the only time the lot's ever been full. The objective to that plan was to increase the buffer zone. I'm happy to reduce the parking spaces and increase the buffer zone further.
I think it's a win-win for both, which I think.
All right, so explain to me what we're doing. So we are keeping the parking perpendicular, which is how it is now, and reduce.
No.
No.
So tell me what we're doing.
Right now, it's angled parking in the back, and there's 12.
Okay.
We are straightening it, making it perpendicular, pulling it away from the residential.
How far?
What's shown on the plan?
It varies,
What's shown on the plan?
Okay.
but it also increases the spaces to 17. So, in other words, one option could be we relocate it as we have shown in the plans, but remove 5 on the end, so you're
Right.
still at 12.
Got
So now you have a bigger buffer, the same number, and then that allows us to
More landscaping.
put those plantings back there.
Works for me.
Okay, I think the big elephant in the room is the fence.
Yep.
I think, it doesn't sound like it's doing what it originally had to do. If you can see through it, it certainly isn't blocking light and sound, so.
What are we doing? How high? What
Well, that's what I'm
kind?
thinking. So do we want to make a stipulation that it's a sound fence like we used it, on the highway in 22? Or just a better fence?
What was the height on the one, does anybody remember the height we had back over there?
Well, it was on top of the wall that existed already.
So what's the height of the
8 feet.
wall?
It was 8
8
feet.
feet, so that's.
But it was a special sound wall, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was double T111 it was designed to
But
buffle.
for the
Sound.
the cars idling, that was one of the ones,
Right.
that was, we were more concerned there with the cars idling and buffering that sound.
And the speaker.
And the speaker, but the speaker we could adjust.
Speaker we do a
It would just be
post-construction
your-
sound
yeah,
test.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So if we're increasing our buffer zone, we have a lot more space than Dunkin' Donuts on 22. I would suggest, I would be more than happy to put in a solid PVC fence. It's a lot less maintenance than T111. It'll last forever. We do get ivy growing up on that fence that we'll have to take down this existing fence. The existing fence is the exact fence the residents requested back in the original approvals. I'd be more than happy to replace it with solid PVC, which should increase sound barrier and be durable for life.
And what about-
What's the difference between the two fences sound-wise?
The wooden fence
That we
has
were just
those
talking about.
little-
Well, they're not sound attenuating.
The PVC is not sound attenuated,
It's-
the other one,
It's gonna block the headlights.
right, but it won't block the sound.
It's gonna do something, but not to the extent that we have in McDonald's. It's not to that extent. Because that's a sandwich.
Right, it's like a
It's
double
sandwich
fence.
with the air pocket, which is the sign. This is a standard solid PVC fence, which obviously can do something, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna be as effective as a sound attenuating wall.
How do we have this data plan? What's the cost difference?
It's probably substantial because we're talking about a double sandwich at T11, sorry, it goes up. I think what I'm hearing from the residents is the headlights is a big issue. Glenn is saying wrapping around, I think an 8-foot fence would address that.
Well, I think I'm concerned about the idling cars if they go along the backside, because obviously that building's gonna act like an echoing chamber and shoot it over, but if we can make it so they come through the front of the building and they're not allowed to go along the backside, and they queue along the front, we won't have that issue, the building will be a buffer.
A condition could be to put the 8-foot fence, should it be found to be a problem, to replace that with a sound attenuating fence.
Because we're gonna do a post-construction noise.
Right, we could certainly
study
say,
anyway.
look, put the fence in and see how it works. If the site operations has a lot of noise at the property line and warrants a different fence be put in, and at that point it's put in.
Mike, could an additional, rather than put a fence and tear it down for another one, is there a way to supplement PVC fence if it's needed later?
It could be, we'd have to get a sound professional and take a look at whether.
Just doing a double fence will.
Double fence
make
with
that
the same.
Well, how about a double vinyl fence?
Right.
Yeah.
I would just prefer, so that's such a shady area because of all the trees, that wood does not hold up.
Yeah.
I would rather
totally
go
agree.
synthetic, so that way it's not a problem in 20 years, when the wood starts to decompose.
I guess what I'm suggesting, if the fence is not being effective for
We have to
sound,
mitigate
that
it.
we do
We
something
have to
to make it effective.
Short of ripping out one fence to put a brand
Something
new one.
to address, to muffle it better.
Stage.
Sound.
And are we saying 8 feet total on top of, there's a wall there now?
No, we're talking about
No,
8
no,
feet
there's no wall
along
there.
the
There was a
property.
wall over on 22.
Got it,
The
okay.
one to the south, there's a retaining wall, small wall that I think Gregory was saying, don't make it 8 feet because you can't see the driveway.
That's what I was talking
He was
about.
saying making it 4 feet,
Where,
which
can
still
you point
handles
on
it.
that
Right
what
there.
you're talking about is there?
Like I'd offer if we could put landscaping on top of the wall, as
If
opposed to the fence.
If you can get the row.
If we can get it, yeah.
Arborvitae's there or something?
Yeah.
If you
On
can
top
get
of
the
the
row, if there's actually
Yeah, that's-
topsoil.
We have a gap between the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, there's a gap between the curb and the wall itself.
okay.
You're saying some type of green giant arborvitae, some kind of evergreen out there along a double
Just,
row or
because
something.
you're worried about the headlights, just get it up so it's 3 to 4 feet at
Right.
least, so.
I'd be in favor of that.
Alright, so arborvitae on top of the wall, give me a location.
It's south side,
The
Southern
southern
border.
Southern, on
along the drive-through.
southern property.
southern border
Yeah.
of, adjacent to the drive-through. And 8-foot fence on the remaining
To
portion.
replace the remaining fence that goes all the way. Can you show us how far the fence
Do the
goes?
residents still want the chain link fence there as well?
I'm standing up because I know you closed the public session, but I wanted to speak to just the fence part. Since I was here 20 years ago and we decided that the chain link fence, which is like 8 feet high, always stayed as a security fence. We had a lot of like jumpers and stuff for Washington Place wanting to, go into the property. So we left that, it's been perfect. Then Greg and his group put the wall, the wooden fence, the
yeah.
decorative one. More like to block,
So
the
you
wall.
want to keep the chain link fence, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
We'll
from my side, it's, you know what I'm saying, it works, because I'm like pretty well landlocked right there anyway. If I get something more solid, it's gonna be like, can't get out at all. Thank you for letting me speak.
So the PVC fence would go to help you out,
Yeah, thank you.
along the residential,
Edge.
zone.
Okay.
So that's basically easterly, northeast, north, easterly, and probably along the back of right here.
Yeah, Craig, you might want to tie it into the trash enclosure all the way coming down. Is that?
Yeah. So get the little triangle.
If you catch the headlights wrapping around drive.
Yes, sir.
You would catch the headlights,
Yeah,
so
you're
any
right.
glare.
Yeah.
would
Maybe
hit the
just
wall.
go straight
Right.
across it.
Right,
Yeah.
just tie it right to the trash can.
Okay.
I have a question. Would it be better to make the circulation around the main building counterclockwise? So if you wanna make a delivery, put a stop sign up top, people coming in, so no one goes to the Dunkin' Donuts over the top of the building.
That was the original plan when my father started it, and it was shot down by Blaze and the board at the time in favor of this.
I was there, I don't remember what happened.
Can you
I do.
Can somebody explain that? I don't think that's gonna make a difference. I think what we have to do is make sure they come through the front of the building, so the building acts as a buffer.
Oh,
So the trucks need to be on the front of the building, and if there's a buildup of that many cars, they should be coming down the front of the building and then going through the drive-through. So we keep away from the neighborhood as much as possible. And yes, there might be someone who's gonna sneak around the back, but if there's wayfaring signs, I think, and the truck definitely needs to come to the front of the building, so.
The fire trucks use the rear, that's part of the turning
Yeah.
through the site. So I don't know if we have a report from the fire marshal, but I think he was questioning the turning radius of that modification, Craig, on the southern corner of the
Like I
existing.
said, this is
Yes.
better than what's there now.
I understand,
Yeah.
but just to make sure that the trucks
Get
can make that
approval.
movement
Yeah.
through that. That's the actual movement through the site.
Is that a drivable curve?
If it needs to be, we'll make it.
Ding, ding,
But like I
ding.
said, this is 30 feet wide proposed. So,
And
if I'm
you
not
think it's more
mistaken,
than
I
enough?
did put the turning radius on there, but I'll work out with Mike.
Yeah.
Then I'll-
So I have a quick question, have we decided at what time the delivery truck was gonna deliver, since Mrs. Samansky said they come at 9 o'clock at night,
I
but
have
the hours
spoken
are
with the applicant,
closed?
who's gonna change it to daytime,
Okay.
so the night crew's not following directions.
Thank you.
And just for housekeeping, Craig, as you're aware, you're probably gonna have an SODSA connection fee, so.
That's lateral place, right?
Any increase in
It
flow,
is.
it's really the SOD, it's not me, whatever they say. Craig is aware of this, he fought a battle on the Village Brewing, he calls that, because the approval predates the change in the law, do you remember that?
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did I miss about delivery timing?
Day-
They're gonna
Daytime.
change it to the daytime.
Alright,
Could
do you
we,
wanna,
should we stipulate that, because the site's open at 5 AM,
You don't want them coming in at 5 AM, I
I would,
think Greg said that he talked to the owner, and they're gonna,
They're gonna do it during daytime.
Well, what's daytime?
What's daytime?
What is
Exactly.
daytime?
daytime would be 7 o'clock.
8 to 8, I don't know.
Mr. Amin,
Yes, I'm
what
sorry.
time can you arrange for deliveries to,
Then we can bring during morning 7 to 6, 7.
Sometime
6 o'clock
after
in the
7.
evening.
No, let's not go back too early.
No, we can bring during really daytime.
Anytime after 7
How about-
AM.
7 to
How about 8 to
5,
8?
6 PM in the evening.
How about 8 to 8?
Well, our ordinance is 7.
No, that
Yeah,
was
we
it.
gotta stick with our
It's
ordinance.
better than 5,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
you wanna
so,
hear what we
I was
got?
just gonna say, do you wanna run through everything?
Alright, so we got preliminary and final site plan. We've got variances for a minimum front yard setback, that's a pre-existing condition. I don't know if we're gonna need a waiver for the 7 shade trees, but let's grant it just in case they can't satisfy all of them in the additional areas in the rear. A variance for the location of the drive-in window and stacking lanes, because they're located 64, not 75 feet from the residential district. Variance for the hours of operation of the drive-in. Variance for the wall signs, and both wall signs, and the projection of the wall signs. What I have for conditions are, compliance with Mike's report. The signs will comply with Mike's report as well as the ordinance. Hours, I'm hearing we're keeping as proposed.
With the contingency to adjust them if there is a problem.
Yep. I think I have that a little bit better later on. Directional signs, stop signs that are ordinance compliant, the satisfaction of our engineer to encourage drive-through traffic towards the front of the buildings. Deliveries through the front of the property and during the daytime, specifically between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. We're going to do a post-construction audio test at the property line. If there is any issues with the neighbors or the test, we'll adjust accordingly via adjusting the speaker or the hours of operation of the drive-through. Dimmable lighting test as well, same type of condition. New fencing, 8 feet in height to replace the existing fencing along the northeasterly property line adjacent to the residences.
PVC fencing.
Yeah, PVC.
Right now, there's what
Double vinyl might
PVC.
be some.
Yeah, whatever.
And that's going to be tied into the trash enclosure. Arborvitae on top of the wall to the southern boundary, to the drive-through, southerly boundary adjacent to the drive-through. I don't know if we still need this based upon the conditions, but we can include that the applicant agrees to walk the site with the neighbors to address any additional comments with regard to lighting and screening. Landscaping, going to work with the board engineer and planner. We're going to maintain the chain link fence. We're going to amend the plans to reflect all of these changes, comments, and conditions. Do we have to do anything regarding the trash enclosure to your satisfaction? Do we change
We'll
anything?
change the fence according to now.
We're going to do that. That I already have.
Yes,
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Parking, we're going to keep it perpendicular and pulled back as per the plan, but we're going to have only 12 and not 17 spaces to allow for more landscaping. And I'd like to include something in there that the plans be submitted to the fire marshal to address any comments that he may have.
And my only comment is if the wall, the 8-foot PVC wall is not effective of sound, that additional
We will
mitigations will be done to the
I'll
wall
tie
or
that in
something
here.
to address the sound.
That's a quick question. How do you define that? Like the sound is sufficient, and I think the other comment was about opening at 5 a.m. versus 7 a.m. You said if there's a problem, you would move that time up, but what do you define as a problem?
So the decibels will have to be state compliant. So when we do the noise test, if it complies with the decibels that are permitted by the state, then that's what we have to go by. As far as other issues, I mean, I'll leave it up to the board, but what we've kind of done in the past is we've seen, first of all, if it satisfies the requirements, and then if there is any issue.
Yeah, with stakeholders, we would hear from
Correct.
stakeholders, basically.
Correct.
Which is you.
If there's complaints from slamming
Letter
doors.
You would, oh, Mike.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll give you his number at the end of the meeting.
No, better yet, call this guy. He knows everything, it's all good. Thank you, Mr. President. You're welcome.
Just one other question to follow up on what Mike said. Is there any testing that you would do for the emissions of idling vehicles there? And basically make some sort of determination, because the idling, queued cars, particularly if it's 25 cars an hour, it's going to have a legitimate amount of particulate emissions coming up over the neighborhood and over the houses.
The state regulates that through the emission testing and the idling laws. So in my opinion, Carrie, you can chime in, I don't think this board has any say on the emissions from what comes out of the tailpipe, only the state does in the emission standards.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you're really not allowed to idle the truck, right? And in fact, there's a lot of municipalities where they will ticket people for doing that, but
I'm not
but
sure
here
what
you
idling
actually,
is.
Yeah, here you have, idling, I guess, would be.
I'm gonna pull us back to what we're gonna be doing. Yeah,
I don't
thank
think we have
you.
the authority.
Right now, we don't have the authority to measure that, but you as a citizen are welcome to measure it anytime and see what it is.
Thank you.
And bring it to the attention of whoever is in charge of emissions. Okay.
Well, a legitimate question comes up. Ask the neighbors, when they do deliveries, do they turn the trucks off or not?
They don't.
okay, then that could be something that could also be helpful.
That's policing, so
That's
that's
good.
not even.
No, but it's just a common sense thing, if we have the residents here and we have
Okay.
the applicant, let me finish.
Mhm.
And we can tell, they can tell the delivery people, turn your engines off, that's one less thing.
That
the
is the
residents-
law, and so it is out of our purview.
Well,
It's a matter of policing.
Maybe they need to say it again.
It's a matter of policing.
They can
So
have
call
that
the police.
conversation with them at another time.
I just
Okay.
did, we're good.
Are we gonna vote on this? I need somebody to move this if we're gonna vote on it.
So moved.
Seconded?
Yes.
Kara? I'm sorry. He wants to make sure that the truck deliveries are in the front of the building, but the deliveries themselves go in the back door. He doesn't want to go in the front door, just a clarification.
So they would walk with a hand cart around the
Yeah.
building?
That's fine, it's the truck that's the problem, it's
Right.
not the delivery.
Yep.
It's the item, it's the truck that's the
So,
problem.
delivery trucks only in front of building,
Correct.
In front of the main building.
Hand delivery to the back.
hand delivery.
Yep. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Why can't they do that?
We are now going to take a vote.
Ms. Lozinski,
Yes.
Mayor Sullivan.
Yes.
Councilman Broom,
Yes.
Mr. Dare.
Yes.
Ms. Aiken.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Mr. Cressy,
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland,
Yes.
Mr. Addis,
Yes.
and Ms. Warner.
Yes. Okay. Thank you
Thank
very
you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations, John, congratulations.
There is nothing else on the docket?
We have one thing, I did prepare, really quickly, I did prepare a resolution, you guys don't even have it in your packet, but this is the waiver of site plan. The whole thing to rent last time. I just prepared a quick resolution, we just need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution.
I will move that we adopt the resolution.
Who's the second?
Give it to you now.
Okay,
I
Chris.
got a taste of this missing. I cut it too
Thank
small.
you all so much.
Okay, go ahead, go.
Ms. Lozinski.
Yes.
Councilman Broom.
Yes.
Ms. Adair.
Yes.
Mr. Prestes.
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland.
Yes.
Ms. Warner.
Yes.
Chris is not here.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.
Man, that's the longest one we've had in a long time.
No.
Yeah, I think Bernie knew. Bernie knew.
Yeah, of course he did.
Ran away to me.
Camera.
Camera.
There's gonna be a whole